Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Walt here from Down the Block Sports, and today I want to talk about the NBA. It's looking like one of the major NBA free agent dominoes has likely fallen. We've seen reports today of a star player likely to opt out of his current contract and re-sign with his former team. What I want to talk about is who that player is, where he's expected to sign, and what this means for all teams moving forward. Again, I'm Alec Walt. This is Down the Block Sports. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of my exclusive content. Yes, according to multiple reports, James Harden, who has a $35.6 million player option with the Philadelphia 76ers, is likely to reject his player option and sign a multi-year contract with the Houston Rockets. Harden played multiple years previously with the Rockets before getting traded to the Brooklyn Nets and then the Philadelphia 76ers. He has a short stint of experience with Houston Rockets coach Ime Udoka for when he was an assistant with the Brooklyn Nets. Joining me to talk about this trade and more is Alex Fischbein, the host of the Atlantic Files podcast. Alex, what's going on? Based on that jersey over your shoulder there, I'm sure you're not too thrilled with the decision of one James Harden.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm super excited about it, but also at the same time, I can't say that I'm very surprised.
I'm not either. Of course, it's the Rockets, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if he was going really anywhere else, I mean, especially this quickly, I mean, it really was going to come down to two teams at the end of the day, in my opinion. He was going back to Philly because they got rid of Doc Rivers, or he was going to go somewhere where he could just play basketball and not have any major pressure on him to win a title.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's interesting to me because I think that if Philly was able to somehow get Ime Udoka instead of firing Doc Rivers, well, not really waiting because they were still in the playoffs, but if they were able to fire him earlier and get Ime Udoka, I feel like James Harden probably wouldn't have all of these rumors surrounding him of returning to Houston.
Yeah, but what does that tell you internally if you were to have that decision made before the playoffs started? Like, how would you look at Doc Rivers as your head coach, knowing that, well, whether we win the finals or lose, you're like, we're going to have a new coach regardless? I don't think that's a good look. Well, one, for Houston, I think they're smart for getting Ime that quickly. But Philly, they had no ability to do something like that.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a bad look for James Harden. I mean, if we're being honest, the three guys that were all in Brooklyn together, meaning Harden, Durant, and Kyrie, have all turned into either team killers or coach killers. Yeah. Because everywhere they've gone, minus Durant going to Golden State, the coaches have all gotten fired, or they've traded away a bunch of players and have ruined their team, i.e. the Mavericks with Kyrie. So James Harden now, some of these rumors were swirling even before the playoffs started about him going to Houston. There was a couple Houston reporters talking about him, with his freedom to play basketball and freedom to be, him, that he would like to return to Houston because they allowed him to do that at first.
I saw a headline today that said treated like a god.
Yes.
Or viewed as something like that, being in that market with the pressure off him. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's gotten Houston to the farthest they've been since, I don't know, did Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, did they get to the conference finals? I don't know if they did or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So he might have gotten the Rockets as far in the playoffs since Hakeem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big feat in and of itself. But again, he won an MVP there. He's got a bunch of all NBAs and so on and so forth. But then you have Harden coming out and saying, when they ask, what do you want in a team to go to in the offseason? And he said he just wants a chance to compete. So not only does it look bad that you made this decision before the playoffs, but you say you want a chance to compete. However, you want to go to a team that is the exact opposite of the team you're already on.
Yeah.
You're going to a rebuilding team that just got the 4th pick in the NBA draft.
Boom.
Which, I mean, it kind of sucks for them because they we're tanking for something a lot better than the number 4 pick. But so that automatically has to be a lie, because if Houston is your number 1 place, you're not going to somewhere to compete. You're going somewhere to just be able to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. Like, when he goes to Houston, he's going to have full control to basically do whatever he wants. I mean, I think Ime Udoka is a great coach. Obviously, you see the banner over my shoulder here. His time in Boston was great. It was definitely unfortunate to see him go, but he was able to find another job, and he's in a place like Houston. The team that he's coaching is nowhere near similar to what he was coaching in Boston, but James Harden goes from a team in Philly to a team in Houston, and from a coaching standpoint, I think there's definitely an upgrade. I think Ime Udoka is a fantastic coach. Yes, I do think he benefited from a very good Boston Celtics team, but he definitely set the tone and the standard in the second half, which was why they were able to make that NBA Finals run. When I look at the Houston Rockets, you look at their roster, right? He's going to be joining a team with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith, the second and third overall pick in recent drafts. You got a guy they just gave an extension to in Kevin Porter Jr. Last year, the backcourt in Houston was between Porter Jr. and Green. Now Harden enters the mix with that. We'll see what that 3-guard lineup looks like, and a question I will be asking you very soon. Alperen Şengün is a double-double guy and is quite possibly the most underrated center in the NBA. It seems like people have forgotten about him, but him getting a double-double was regular, it felt like, averaging 14 or close to 15 points and 9 rebounds per game. And then they have some decent young wings coming off the bench in a Tari Eason and a Kenyon Martin Jr., who many people forget that there is a junior in the NBA right now, which makes me feel extremely old. You look at the Rockets. They needed to add that veteran presence, because when you look at all the guys I just mentioned, I believe are 24 years or younger. I think Porter Jr. might be a little bit older, which is why he was able to sign that extension. But either way, this is not an old team. This is not a team that has experience. This is a team that doesn't really have that veteran leader. Harden's certainly a veteran. I don't think he's the leader, but based on the way this team played last year, how does the presence of Harden help the development of the young players around him? Because there's only one basketball. And like I mentioned before, there's going to be lineups where they have Harden, Porter Jr., and Green on the court at the same time.
Right.
What do you do?
I mean, I will say, just to go to one of your points earlier, Porter Jr. is only 22, so the oldest person on the team.
I misread that big time then. I thought he was older than that. I thought he was 24-ish. Okay, so I was wrong there. But either way, that explains it even more.
Right, exactly.
Every one of the teams, barely been in the league.
The oldest person that was getting a consistent amount of minutes was Jayshawn Tate at 27.
Okay.
Because, technically the oldest would be Boban, but Boban doesn't play. So
yeah, no, I'm not going to include him.
But to go back to your question, I will say that James Harden surprised me, at least. I don't know if he surprised a lot of people, but when he went to Philadelphia and they started showing all of his clips on the sidelines of him talking to Tyrese Maxey, mentoring Tyrese Maxey, and then literally it was like after the full offseason they had together, we saw Maxey doing the patented James Harden tap dance step back. We saw him doing a lot of things that it was like, wait, I've seen Harden do that a lot. Mm-hmm. So it was surprising to see Harden turn into a mentor type of person, because everyone saw him prior to that. He wasn't really mentoring anybody. He was just trying to go out there, be the MVP, and try and win a championship, especially with Brooklyn after he was in Houston. So if he can take that mentorship mentality to Houston, but also still be able to play the way he wants to play, that will be obviously the best case scenario for both Houston and for him. Yeah. But like you said, there's only one ball. Kevin Porter Jr., a lot of people have already kind of deemed as like a James Harden light. He has a very similar play style. He can be a pretty good all-around player. And he still he's still just rough around the edges. He's only 22. He had some issues when he first was in Cleveland before he even got traded to Houston, and then had some injury issues the past couple seasons. Mm-hmm. But I think it'll be a tremendous upgrade for these young guys, because if we watch Jalen Green, he's just been chucking the ball. I mean, he the ultimate green light, the ultimate volume shooter. And a lot of people have been wondering if he's turning into a bit of a bust as the number 2 pick, because he's only shot, this past season, he shot 41% from the floor on 17.9 attempts per game. And then 33.8% from 3 on 7.3 attempts. So, obviously, he's just, shooting the moment he gets the ball. If you have a guy in Harden that will not only take some of the defensive pressure away from him, but also set him up for good shots, set him up in good situations, that's going to just further the confidence of the young guys. Mm-hmm. Now, that also allows Jabari to get some open threes, which we all know the shooter that he is. That's going to be huge in his improvement as well. And then you brought up a really good name in Sengun. We've seen Sengun be able to be a distributor from the center spot. So now you have a team full of players that not only are scorers, but you have a lot of playmakers on the floor as well. Jalen Green is an okay playmaker, not the best, but if you have Porter Jr., Harden, and Sengun on the floor at the same time, that's a lot of guys who can move the ball around and find the open player. Yeah. Like you said, though, the only thing is, the issue comes when people start going, well, I want to get my points. Like, okay, you got yours, but I want to get mine now. And that's going to be the thing of will Ime be able to manage the egos and actually have them play together?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, here's the thing. He was able to in Boston, but I think a huge reason for that was because they had someone like Al Horford, who was the coach on the court. Ime was not afraid to go public and call out his players. He wasn't overly aggressive about it, but he knew when they were not living up to the standard, he was not afraid to admit it. Obviously, when you look at the Rockets and you look at the Celtics, they're in a much different stage of their development as a team. When you look at the roster, I don't think there's anyone like a Al Horford on the Rockets. That can obviously change in free agency. If they want to go after any players, they have $60 million in cap space. You got to think about 2/3 of that at least is going to James Harden. You don't know what other happens with veteran movement in free agency. There's a ton of decent depth role players that we're going to be breaking down in future videos here on Down the Block Sports. But you're not wrong when it comes to Ime Udoka. And if I'm the Houston Rockets, I'm finding that Al Horford type. Yes, they're not competing for a championship, but I think that presence would be huge in taking the egos out of what's going on the court.
Right. I mean, you also had Marcus Smart calling the players-only meetings. And
so he's the captain, basically.
Right. So, yeah, there's nobody. They hoped Eric Gordon was going to be the veteran leader. I was
there forever.
Exactly. And Eric Gordon was just counting down the days until he went somewhere that he could actually compete for something. Mm-hmm. So right now, just look at, obviously, like you said, you can address a lot of these things in the off season, but the top 8 guys that have gotten over 20 minutes a game. If I'm removing Eric Gordon, like I said, the oldest one was Jayshawn Tate. You got 22, 20, 19, 20, 22, 21. And after that are some guys that haven't been proven. They're still working their way into things like Ty Washington Jr., another draft pick from last season. He's not going to get minutes
with Harden.
No, he's not.
And they have the number 4 pick.
Exactly. and there was Usman Garuba was another one that a lot of people had a lot of...
That's the center, right?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people thought he was going to turn into something pretty good, but we don't know what he's going to be. Josh Christopher was in the same draft as
another one.
Jalen Green. He's another shooting guard. So, another one that gets pushed down the depth chart. So, if they don't bring in somebody that has some sort of veteran leadership, then
The glue
this
guy.
exactly. Like even if it's like a PJ Tucker or like I mean Chris Paul might be out there somewhere now because Phoenix is
Imagine they
talking
bring
about
them
shopping
back.
him. Yeah, I mean Chris Paul could be, especially if you tell Chris Paul like, look, we're not, if he's okay with it, if we're not competing, and you just say like, we just need you to mentor people. Like he could be another amazing mentor for young guards.
I feel like though for Chris Paul, I mean obviously he doesn't have a say if he gets traded, but
Right.
um
I doubt it would
he's
happen.
not winning a ring with the Rockets, at least while he's still in the league. I feel like there's better options for him there, but I see what you mean.
Yeah. So that's the thing is there has to be some sort of plan that they have in terms of getting somebody else to like at least just be able to talk to the younger guys, at least, something in along those lines. I mean, again, this is another guard, but somebody that probably won't be brought back to their team is Derrick Rose with the Knicks. They haven't been playing him at all, especially after getting Jalen Brunson. I mean, he hasn't really been doing anything. Derrick Rose is a guy that a lot of the Knicks' younger players have said he's been a great voice in their ear for their time in New York. But then after that, you have to go down the list, and a lot of these guys are not exactly leadership type of guys. Like I'm not gonna go get like a Josh Richardson or a Dwight Powell or even like Dylan Brooks is there, but after that whole comedy show of a playoffs for him, that's not someone you want to bring into a young situation either.
Yeah.
So I think that's the number one thing to look at. After Ime, who is going to be the one that holds everybody accountable on the floor? Because as we saw in Philly, James Harden isn't holding anyone accountable because he's not even holding himself accountable.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but it's looking like James Harden is likely going to reject his player option, become a free agent, and sign a multi-year deal with the Houston Rockets. Fish, before I let you go, my man, how can our listeners here keep in touch with you on social media and listen to the Atlantic Files podcast?
Yeah, so the Atlantic Files podcast, we go by the number one podcast on the number one division in the NBA, and we are everywhere you get your podcasts. Exactly. Celtics, Sixers, Knicks. I mean, we had every team in the playoffs except the Raptors, technically, but they weren't in the
which is why you might have their coach next year.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're everywhere you get your podcast. Spotify, Apple, Google, all of those podcast platforms. We're also on YouTube. We have a video side to it as well. You can catch us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all under either Atlantic Files or The Atlantic Files. So catch us on there. We do an episode a week, usually like a long-form episode. We love talking to people watching all the time, answering questions. So check us out.
And if you want to find the links to Alex's content, it is all in the descriptions below. Fishman, I appreciate you taking the time to join me. I'm looking forward to doing some more NBA videos soon here on Down the Block Sports.
Agreed. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Can't wait to do more.
That's going to be it for this episode of The Alec Walt Show. I'm Alec Walt alongside Alex Fischbein. What do you think of James Harden likely declining his player option and becoming a free agent, returning to the Houston Rockets? Feel free to give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more of my exclusive content. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you very soon.